Hey, this is Tandy with Common Ground Alaska. I'm so glad you've decided to join us. Today, we get to talk to Cori Jenab, and I'm really excited about this, partly because this is the first of several conversations we're going to have with Cori. And also, Cori just has some really amazing insight that I think is going to be helpful for Alaskans as a whole. So Cori is a nutritional therapy practitioner, but one of her passions is eating locally sourced foods and eating simply. So I thought that would be kind of a fun kind of topic to be talking about regularly on the show. This week, she's going to be kind of introducing herself, telling us a little bit about what she does. And then this summer, we have some pretty fun topics coming up. We're going to talk about foraging. We're going to talk about meat, store-bought versus local farm raised or locally hunted and caught. We're going to talk about the history from farms to factories. And we're even going to talk about food preservation, why to preserve, how to preserve in ways that are healthy. And as you know, food preservation is one of my favorite things to talk about. So I think we're going to have a good time. So Cori, I'm really glad that you decided to join us today. I appreciate it. And so tell us about yourself.
So my name's Cori again, and I was born and raised in California, actually. A lot of Alaskans cringe when I say that, but it's true. Sorry. I've been in Alaska for about 5 years now. I originally started in the interior and then bounced southeast and now ended up out here and toward Anchorage. I was a counselor for a very long time, about 12 years.
Oh, wow.
Worked in addiction treatment, a lot of mental health, different facets. And then through my own journey, kind of veered into nutritional therapy just because of my personal experiences. So
I love that. That's awesome. So, and now you have a business.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that.
So nutritional therapy is basically a holistic approach to health and wellness and restoring balance in a holistic way. So basically I went to school through the Nutritional Therapy Association and got a certification. So basically I practice functional nutrition. And I utilize my counseling background quite a bit to work with my clients. I work with people one-on-one at this point, and I really look at all aspects of their health and what's going well and what's not going well. And then I target it in a bio-individual holistic manner, which we will get more into in a little bit.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
Very good. And functional medicine, I'm learning. I think I told you, my husband has a brain injury. And so he spent some time just not really getting answers in mainstream medicine. His doctors are great. They're amazing. They tried, but they just didn't have the answers. And when we went to a functional neurologist in Minnesota, he looked at him from head to toe. He wasn't just looking at his brain. He was looking at him as a whole person. And man, what a difference it made. And you know, slowly I hope anyway, we have hope where we didn't have hope before. And it was just that holistic whole body approach that's made all the difference. So I love that. Okay, so let's dive in. What exactly is nutritional therapy?
So from our approach, again, like what Tandy was saying, this is a holistic approach to wellness. So what we typically do is primarily we're looking at diet. That's the first thing. What are you eating? What are you not eating? And then which is very basic. And then what we look at is lifestyle. So what kind of life are you leading and how is that maybe impacting your health in ways that you're not happy about? And then what are the things you're doing that are supporting your health day to day? And it sounds very simple, and for the most part it can be, but it can also get pretty complicated once I start digging. It kind of just, it depends. And so we look at things, I can break it down for you guys right now if you want to.
Yeah, that would be great. I love this. This is
okay. So yes, the first thing that we do is we look at 6 foundations of health. So the first thing is really nutrient dense whole foods. That's the primary concern that I have as a practitioner, is how much of those things are you eating and how much more could you be consuming, and ways of creatively fitting that in. Because I know that can be really difficult depending on where you live. Some people just have a very hard time accessing local, organic, nutrient dense foods. Cost is an issue. And so again, not expecting that to be like $1,000 a week organic diet, but finding ways of getting creative and doing that, and helping my clients do that.
Which is super important because like you said, we can't grow food year round. So
Right.
I just listened to a podcast and they mentioned a farm or not a farm, a place in California where they have a quarter of an acre and they grow their own food year round. They never have to go to the grocery store for their produce. And, you know, like we don't have that. So it does get far more complicated, but there are resources and it's interesting to know. The other thing I want to just note really quick is as far as nutrition goes, it's such a learning process for everyone. And so there's never, I kind of feel like sometimes people are kind of embarrassed to approach it because they're like, you know, but there's no shame because I read, I think it was a Joel Salatin quote. He said something like, in this world, of course we're confused because in this world, foods like raw milk are bad for you, you know, and Doritos are good for you. So, I mean, that's what we're being constantly fed. So of course it's confusing when, you know, when we're hearing one thing and it really, you know, is rubbish. And then, you know, so of course it's going to be confusing and, you know, gluten or not gluten and all the things it's hard. So,
yeah. And those are, you know, one size fits all approaches when we look at like, well, marketing, right? There's a reason for that, but then talking about fad diets and stuff like that, that's also, again, that's not going to work for everyone. You know, if you talk about veganism, for example, I won't really get too into that right now, but veganism doesn't work for a vast majority of people, and neither does keto for, you know, various reasons. Again, that's why it's helpful to have a practitioner look at your bio individuality, your history, and see what's going on, and then what might work best for you. Based on your personal needs, because we're all very different internally in certain ways. So so that would be the first most basic foundation that we do as NTPs as we look at diets, where to find that nutrient density foods that we can kind of fit in here and there. And then, you know, really like looking at just also talking about finding food that is local and organic, primarily because processed foods and foods that are, you know, shipped over here to Alaska from different places, they're going to lose their nutritional value. And a lot of the soils and things that where our food is grown the soils are depleted. We're not getting the mineral content that we need. That's something that I assess for too, is like individual mineral balance, and I'll talk about that later, but also like vitamins and things that we should be getting from our food day to day that we're really not getting. And so those things being depleted are really going to contribute to long-term health issues and chronic health issues. So again, whenever we can, local organic, and we're supporting local organic farms and people that are trying to maintain sustainability in our communities, and like funding that so that we can continue to access them. So that's, I think, why we need to support when we can too.
I agree. I want to interject one more thing. I'm reading a book called, and I've probably been saying this for a month. I keep renewing it at the library. It's called What Your Food Ate. Have you read it?
I've heard of it. I have not read it, but I have heard of this book recently.
It's a lot of meat. So you just read it really slowly because it's a lot to take in.
Yeah.
But it drew me in immediately because they did a study. I think it was carrots, and they planted one packet of carrots side by side. It was the same carrots, and they planted them in just soil that only had just like a chemical fertilizer in it. They just sprinkled some just chemical fertilizer in there. And then out of the same packet of carrots, they put it in a soil that they had added some compost. So it wasn't even like soil that had been built up for years. They just simply added some compost, and then they compared the carrots, the nutritional value of the carrots, and they the carrot that had been grown in compost had the normal vitamins and minerals and things that a carrot should have. The one that was grown in the kind of the dirt, not the dead soil,
depleted soil,
didn't have near what it should. So when you look at the nutritional value of a carrot, you're assuming that it's been grown properly in soil that's given it that. So that's huge. We don't know these things. And it's, so when we're trying, we're not necessarily getting what we think we need, what we actually need.
Exactly.
Even though we think we are.
And in addition, not getting what we need, but also getting things that are harmful at times. And if you think about what, the book's called What Your Food Ate, like now we're talking about also what did my chicken eat for dinner before they slaughtered it and I'm eating it now? What kind of hormones are in it? Antibiotics and things that maybe my body can't process. And if I'm eating meat every day, maybe, I mean, I eat meat multiple times a week, and it's, or fish or what have you, and poultry. Yeah, I want to make sure that I know what my food ate. So that's a very good point for vegetables and animals.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Okay. I'm sorry to keep interrupting you. Go ahead.
Please keep interrupting me. That's what this is for. So yeah, the second foundation that NTPs focus on is digestion. So that's there's like the big three, and then the other three are just kind of more subtleties. Digestion, there's so many points about digestion. When I was taking notes, I was like, don't get crazy, just keep it simple. I think a lot of us can relate to digestive issues at some point in our life. Sadly, a lot of people have them, but have no idea how to correct them or how to sustainably, like how to get rid of them and keep them away.
Or they don't realize it's not normal.
That is such a good point. Yes. People that have gas all the time that just think, oh, well, people fart. And it's like, well, yes, they do, but not 5 times a day like you are. So like, what's going on? So like that, we talk about that stuff. I talk with my clients about it. There's no shame, because you're a human being with a body, and we've got to figure out what's going on. And that's just an effect of, poor digestion. And so we talk about really the ability to properly digest, but what are the impacts of our choices on our digestion? And how do we impact that? Like, for example, eating a lot of processed foods high in sugar, artificial sweeteners, huge red flag there. Processed oils, a big one, and then lifestyle, like stress is a huge game changer when it comes to digestion, because of the way we digest our food under stress versus when we're not under stress. Even like down to this, I mean, this sounds very like hippy dippy, but the fact is, if I'm not sitting down when I'm eating and I'm running around and my heart's pounding thinking about the meeting that I have, and I'm slamming coffees, I'm actually not going to physically break down my food properly in my stomach. And so those are like the psychoeducational pieces that I give my clients to help them or understand, like, these little things that sound dumb, like I'm being all hippie, it's actually factual information about your body's need and how it's going to ingest nutrients properly. And so that's going to lead to long-term health. And, obviously diet is going to impact digestion and making sure that we're eating as clean as possible. But then something that we don't talk about with digestion that I bring up a lot with people in this conversation is the ability to absorb nutrients properly. So I know you guys have probably heard about leaky gut. That's kind of a fad terminology, and then people are throwing supplements at it and this, that, and the other. Leaky gut refers to intestinal permeability. So there's small holes that end up being poked in the intestines from the things that I had listed, like the sweeteners, high processed oils, like rancid oils and things that are in a lot of our foods. And so if I have intestinal permeability and I have leaky gut, and then I'm ingesting a bunch of nutrients and a bunch of vitamins, and I've got all the best supplements, my body still will not absorb them effectively. And then again, I'm failing. My health is going to suffer on some degree. So again, that's something that I assess for and look at, and just try to create more balance there. And it's relatively easy to do. It just takes willingness and time to kind of put the pieces of the puzzle together.
And the knowledge to know, like you said, it's also when you don't feel well, then a lot of times the knee-jerk reaction is to go buy some vegetables, do what you can to start feeling better.
Yeah.
And if you haven't kind of fixed the core issue, then it's really the healing may still happen, but it sure can take a long time.
Exactly. We need to be able to absorb the nutrients properly. And that's why, again, we're looking at foundations. You know, we look at Western medicine and we look at a lot of that approach is, here are the symptoms up here, target the symptoms. But what NTPs do is like, okay, I don't treat or diagnose. But what I do is I look at and assess for root causes of these issues causing the symptoms so that they don't occur anymore. And that's what we really attempt to do. I want to work my way out of a job with people. So I want them to get well. So yeah, that's pretty digestion.
Awesome. Okay. All right.
Any questions?
Not yet.
Okay.
No, that's great.
Next page.
All right.
The third biggest foundation that we really target and look at that crosses over a lot of barriers in health is blood sugar regulation. So a lot of people, I think when I was starting school and I was thinking about blood sugar, I thought, well, you know, I'm not a diabetic. Like, how is that impacting me? Like, I can eat sugar, I can do what I want. But blood sugar regulation, if that's off balance, we see things like fatigue, irritability, extreme hunger, in moments where, like, if I haven't eaten for 3 hours, suddenly I'm hungry and I'm shaking, and I had a cup of coffee, makes it 10 times worse. My blood sugar, night sweats. A lot of us, especially women, suffer from night sweats. That's a sure sign that your blood sugar regulation is off. Again, if we look at foundations, blood sugar is so closely tied with hormone balance. And that is, again, something that NTPs really work toward achieving. And I have a lot of women, especially in their later years, 50s, 60s, approaching me about hormones because they're like, listen, I'm a disaster. Like, I need to fix this. I don't want to go on HRTs, you know, like, and so blood sugar is huge. And one of the biggest tidbits I have for that is, like, we're going to balance your macros each time you have a meal. So that means really just, you're going to have a protein, a fat, and a carb, and it's magic, honestly. And that's something, like, there's some free advice, guys. Like, if you want to look at blood sugar regs, balancing those macros throughout the day is going to stabilize you. If I have a high carb, let's say I have a bowl of cereal and a soda and on a Red Bull on the, like, that's all high carbs, but the fats and the proteins aren't really there. It's a sign that I'm going to probably be on my way up the sugar mountain and then crashing, and then, you know, tired, irritable.
Yeah.
So we really look at how blood sugar is being impacted for our clients. And, you know, high stress and taxing the adrenal system is really impactful on blood sugar regulation, and inconsistent eating patterns too. So, like, if I'm eating inconsistently throughout the day or the week, I'm not able to sustain the blood sugar balance that I need to feel like my energy level is, you know, sustainable. So there's a lot to that. We work with people on supplementation to help them get that regulation while I do the other foundations. And yeah, again, a lot of the, like, the hype for people is really like, I want to have energy. I don't want to have that crash at 2 or 3 p.m. And I'm having coffee and I'm relying on coffee. And then they're taxing their adrenals at the same time. So it's like this worsening kind of, like, snowball effect.
Yeah.
Where, like, I need my adrenals to be balanced, but I keep dumping coffee because I'm tired, and I've been there. So yeah, I really work with people to make sure that we're not throwing off those hormones, and, you know, that they can get through the day and sleep at night, because if your sleep is off, then again, snowball.
Well, that's the thing that I've noticed too, is I've been on kind of a 2-year journey, and it's taking forever, and there's a lot to learn, and I'm 50. And so I've done 50 years of damage, or 48 years of damage. So it isn't an overnight thing. And and I am having to take it kind of one step at a time. And it's frustrating because the things that I want to target are the visible things, but really that's all happening. But it's the internal things that I have to target first. And, but one thing I do, you can ask my husband, I fall asleep now, just right as soon as I go to bed, and I sleep pretty well through the night. The daylight's kind of messing me up. I've noticed, like, because I don't like,
we don't have this. So the sun doesn't really go down, you guys. If you're not in Alaska this time of year, it's not dark ever.
Exactly. So we have our window, the sun kind of comes in our window, and I don't like curtains. I kind of like to have that happen, but it's an adjustment. So that's my own fault. That's not, but not having that, if I haven't gotten enough sleep the night before, then I of course get tired, but for the most part throughout, I have my energy levels the same throughout the day. And that's just a great thing. It's really helpful.
It is. Yeah. And it's all of these things that I'm talking about, they're all related. And so if one of these things is off, it's going to throw off all the other systems in your body. And again, that's why I always use the term recreating balance or restoring balance, because on any given day, anything can throw off our balance. But if we're taking these steps on a daily basis, then we can start over in the morning.
Yeah.
But again, like Tandy said, and it's actually something I noted in my notes for today, is that we've been doing certain things to our bodies for years that we thought were right, or just kind of got used to.
Exactly.
And so, the work that I do with people, I've had clients see changes in a matter of weeks, which is, I love that, because I'm like, well, it worked, but for long-term issues, or that took a long time to kind of, to have these issues, I would say that, it sometimes can take, 2-3 months to really see changes and results, and that's okay. And it's about understanding that it's a process and just knowing, hey, I'm taking action and I'm going to get there.
Right.
And there's a lot of people that have. So I love seeing that for people. That's why I do this.
Totally. And I feel like at the end of every day, I hope to say to myself, I'm healthier at the end of the day than when I started the day.
Right.
So we're going in the right direction.
Yeah. Yeah. It is a process. So, and I've been through this process myself, and I still have things I'm figuring out on my own and working. I do my work on myself as well as, and friends and family. So not just clients, but kind of everybody that asks.
Anybody who will listen.
Anybody that will listen, that's here for it. But I'm not somebody that just, read a couple of books and went to school and I'm preaching. It's like, I've done the work. I've been through all these fad diets. I've had the crazy allergies and the health issues that the doctors could not figure out. And that's a big part of my path to becoming an NTP was, why am I so sick all the time? And they can't help me. And that's what kickstarted me just saying, I'm going to take this into my own hands. And I figured it out. And, I don't take prescription medications anymore. I was on so many different things for my allergies and different issues I had and skin problems and like just stuff that now I look at my clients, I say, we can figure that out together. And I've been there, and I understand how frustrated you are. And like, this is going to change.
Yeah.
It's okay. Yeah.
I love that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
All right. Hey. Okay.
So there's three foundations left, and they are not less important by any means. They're just a little bit more, I don't know, like fine-tune issues that we have. So the first three, like I said, are the nutrient-dense whole food diet that we want to kind of, look at making sure that you're having these things day to day. And then we have the digestive piece, the blood sugar piece. The next three, the fourth one is fatty acids. So we were told for a long time, I think especially in the 80s and the 90s, that fats were bad for you. Not the case. Certain fats are really unhealthy. Trans fats, for example, and we're not even in such a, nutritionally corrupt society that we live in. Trans fats aren't even really allowed in our food anymore. So that's a good thing.
Right.
But animal fats and even fats from vegetables, like we need like nuts, we need these fats in our diet every day. A lot of women are still in that mindset that fats are unhealthy and they're going to make them gain weight. That's quite the opposite, actually. And a lot of women that want to balance their hormones, I'm saying, all right, I know you're not going to like this, but we need to incorporate more fats. You're having headaches. Your cycle is irregular. You're having mood swings. You're having all of these things. You're craving carbs through the wazoo. Like, these are reasons why we need to input these fats into your diet, and it's going to be a game changer. That's why veganism doesn't work for a lot of people.
Yeah.
I'm saying a lot of people because I don't really know how they get through the day without the fats. They find other ways. Well, I guess they eat avocados and they eat nuts, but a lot of vegans don't eat enough healthy fats and they suffer. But in general, we've got to throw out that misconception. So even if you're dairy-free, even if you're gluten-free, whatever it is, there are ways of finding a balance. And again, can totally help get creative. I do meal planning for people. NTPs will create anything out of nothing. If you don't eat this, this, and this, and this, we're still going to find a way around it, and get creative. So fatty acid balance is number 4.
Okay. And just to back up just a tiny bit,
Yeah.
oftentimes when you heal leaky gut, you can introduce some foods that maybe weren't all that great in the beginning. That's what I have learned too, is, you know, like nuts were just a trigger. They just caused not pleasant effects on me. And now I'm starting to be able to eat nuts again, just because I'm starting to get things healed up, and
yeah.
or because things are healed, I guess I should say.
And that's a good point. Like, we're going to look at what's causing you issues first and foremost. And I would never suggest you eating something that triggers a bad feeling or even just like sluggishness or fatigue.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that is something that I to rewind as an NTP, I look at food intolerances as the first point. Because I'm not going to suggest meal planning that incorporates eggs or something. I can't eat egg, stuff that's going to harm you.
Right.
So a lot of people that I work with will already have a food sensitivity test that I can look at. I can also do a pulse test, and I can test foods individually on you just with my hands and a timer.
Wow.
But if you suspect you have like 10 or 11 things, maybe, which a lot of people do, I just say, let's go get a test done. I'll review it, and then we create your plan around that. And then we can later down the road talk about reincorporating those foods once you're healed, once you're stable, once you're ready to take that on, because there's more important things than like, I want to eat pizza and I can't. I love pizza. Love that for you. Let's just get on board with the other stuff first. And then we'll find that time to get the pizza back on the meal wagon. That's only every couple weeks. I'm hungry now. And then the next foundation that we really need to talk about is mineral balance. So I kind of touched on that a little bit at the beginning of our talk today. And mineral balance is something that we all really struggle with just because of how processed our foods are. And Tandy kind of mentioned at the beginning of the show that we're going to talk about farms to factories later on in a different episode. And really just at the end of the day, the way that we eat food and the way that we look at what food is has changed so much over time. And the truth is that our soils are depleted. Our sources for growing food have changed and creating food have changed. So the natural levels of vitamins and minerals in our foods are just so much lower than they need to be. And our bodies thrive on these things. It's so necessary. I mean, for example, if you think about having a hangover, the body has been depleted of electrolytes, minerals, vitamins, among other things, and you feel absolutely terrible. And that's like kind of a day-to-day thing that we're struggling with on a very minor note, is like, we're just depleted. And so what, I do as an NTP is I help people rebalance those minerals and those vitamins, and I help them make sure that those are contributing to their overall health and that their levels are where they need to be. There's different ways to test for that. And that's part of the assessment that I do in the beginning, is I look at, I have a diagnostic tool for that.
Nice. Very good.
Yeah, minerals are huge. And that's where I'll leave that for now.
Okay, perfect.
And then the last foundation that we have, which is major, is hydration. And I think it's not one of my big three because hydration is such a simple solution, right? Most people in this country are not consuming enough water or the quality of water that they need to consume. And that goes also with the mineral balance. The water that we drink a lot of times is demineralized. It has been stripped of its natural nutrients. And so that is a huge reason why we're not getting the minerals that we need. Also, it's not just from the food and the soil, it's because of the water that we're drinking. I'm lucky enough to live on a well, and the mineral content in that water is insanely good. But like in major metropolitan areas, I mean, like people don't drink their tap water there. And so they're going to the store and buying, you know, distilled water, or buying, you know, Aquafina or Dasani, or these like companies that really just overly cleanse the water. I mean, for good reason, they've got to, but again, it's that's an issue. And then just the amount of water that we're drinking day to day is pretty depleted. We see that people are drinking caffeine to get through the day because of these other issues. And, you know, for every cup of coffee that you drink, you need to drink 2 cups of water. I know that I wasn't doing that for a long time.
Yeah.
I still don't do it sometimes. So that's the 6th foundation as I look at your hydration levels and how it's impacting you. Age is a big factor in that. Pharmaceutical medications, like that's a factor in hydration. How much alcohol, caffeine you drink. Again, that's something I assess for. And such a simple but undervalued component of health.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I think water is a hard one. I think because it's a little bit it's just not considered important. You should drink more water. We're always hearing this. You should drink more water.
Mm-hmm.
But it isn't really, you don't really notice when you feel a little bit dehydrated, you just, you know, you go drink a bunch of water. Now I'm going to ask you something, but you may not know the answer. So that's okay. But I read a while back I was reading about drinking water, and it said that if you drink like lots of water in one sitting several times a day, then you're actually dehydrating yourself because you're making yourself good, because it's just kind of traveling through, and it's I'm going to butcher this, but it's like taking water with it as it's going. Cause if you drink a lot of water, you'll notice you go to the bathroom right away.
Sure.
So it recommended like drinking 8 ounces of water a couple times an hour rather than drinking, a big glass of water, several times throughout the day.
Sure. Yeah. And I think we've all had that experience where we're like, I'm dehydrated. Oh my God. And then you chug a whole gallon of, or a liter of water, and then you're going to the bathroom 27 times. Yes. The most effective way is to sip it throughout the day, to set a goal. For example, I had a client recently that she was pretty good about drinking water, but she hadn't hit her goal. And so we set it at like 90 ounces a day, which is almost a gallon. And it was doable for her, but it was throughout the day. She wasn't like chugging glasses of it at a time. Another really good tip that I have for people is in the morning, if you need to I start the day with a glass of water if you can. And before you have any caffeine, I know that's like the first thing we want when we wake up. I know it is for me. Like that's how I get through the morning. And so I have a glass of water, lemon water or plain water, but I sprinkle some good quality Himalayan pink salt in my water, because that's going to help me retain the water. It's going to help me utilize the water properly in my body. I'm not going to run to the bathroom. And there's minerals in that salt. So not only am I getting my mineral balance back up, I'm hydrating, and I'm not just immediately dehydrating with that caffeine in the morning. So sipping on, even if you want to add a little splash of juice just to get through the taste of water's boring for people, or it's just not enjoyable, have a nice cool, a jug of water, put your stickers on it, throw in some minerals, and sip it throughout the day. And you will find that you're not running to the bathroom nearly as often because you're retaining it.
That's a great tip.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So did you have anything else you wanted to cover before we close?
Yeah, so I just wanted to kind of explain a bit about the process of how I work with people step by step.
Okay, perfect.
So I will always consult with people free of charge. That's not something that I ever charge for, because sometimes it just might not be a good fit, or the person might not be ready to make certain types of changes, but they want to hear about what I do or how I do it. So the consultation is usually about a half an hour, sometimes up to an hour, depending on what's going on with the person. And then, yeah, we just look at background a little bit and like what's going on day to day and things that they want to change, things they want to work on, goals that they have. And then once we decide if it's a good fit and we want to move forward, I will send my client some paperwork, and it's a really comprehensive assessment. So I do a verbal assessment, but I do also do it's a kind of a online diagnostic tools, and also a food journal that I assess. And it's just 3 days telling me what you're eating and telling me how you feel physically and mentally. After all that's done, I analyze it, I look at everything, and then I look at your goals and I create a plan based on what I've picked up, what you've told me, and what you need and what you want to work on. I don't just create my own goals for you based on what I see, like, oh my God, this person really needs. I take what you say first and then I tie them together. And that can be quite a puzzle at times.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then we move forward, we create a plan. And so it's kind of a 6-step process where 3 of those steps are interactive, which I think is really important. I love meeting with people in person. That's why I'm here with Tandy in person. I was like, I'm driving out to Big Lake, like, let's do this. But I will do Zoom, phone, whatever you guys are comfortable with. And then, yeah, I really like to start with like a 3-month package. I do offer visit to visit packages where it's just one off, but I find that just doesn't work super well because people are wanting to call me, they're wanting to check in, email me, hey Cori, I'm feeling like this, what's going on? And I'm like, oh, well, let me tell you. 3 months is really a good solid foundation to see serious changes, especially if they're just things that are like digestive problems, fatigue, sleep, headaches, moodiness, even like stuff like that. 3 months is a great amount of time to get some change going. And so, yeah, that's really what we do. And then I find that I can work with people for long after that on, okay, we've targeted these goals. You've kind of killed it on all of these things with the suggestions that I've made. And now we're going to target your other goals and we're going to keep going. And then some people are like, okay, I don't need you anymore. And thank you so much for your time. Like, I'm better now and I know how to live my life and I don't have anything else. So yeah, that's what I do. And that's how I do it.
I think that's pretty great. I think for a lot of us, the goal is to stay away from the doctor's office. And it's nothing against, like I said, Jean's medical team most of them are pretty great.
Yeah.
But doesn't mean we enjoy going to see them.
I know.
So to keep ourselves healthy, to get ourselves healthy and then to keep ourselves healthy, I think is really important. And having the tools that maybe aren't the pharmaceutical route is super helpful.
Yeah.
So
yep.
Yeah, I love that. So thank you for coming and sitting amongst our cherries and honeyberries.
Awesome. I need to explore this place. So much fun.
The greenhouse is full, the sunroom is full, the living room is now full. So what are you gonna do?
I love this. I'm intrigued.
So anyway, but thank you for coming to join us. This was fun. And I'm really looking forward to our upcoming classes, which I think are just gonna be, just really informative for all of us who are trying to just live more naturally. We're trying to live more self-sustainably. And so I'm really glad that you're gonna do this. So alpenglowcoaching.com is your website.
Yes.
And alpenglowcoaching@gmail.com is her email. And that'll be in the show notes. So you can just look there for that information. And again, thank you, Cori, for joining us.
Thank you so much. I'm really excited to get started. And this is a great first show. So I can't wait to do more.
All right. Thank you. All right. Thanks for joining us.